Hello everybody and welcome to another board game discussion video. Today's topic is going to be a bit of a loose retrospective on this year's Summer of Board Game conventions. So we've had PAX, Origins, and Gencon being the biggest ones in recent months. We're still a little bit a ways from Essen Spiel, and I wanted to go over my personal thoughts on some of the major announcements that we saw, some of the games that are upcoming, as well as just sort of patterns that we're seeing in all of this. Like I said, a bit loose though, so bear with me, but as always, of course, please let me know any and all thoughts that you guys have in the comments below. What is your most look forward to announcement and why? Are there things that you're not excited about and why? All of that kind of stuff. You guys know I love to hear anything and everything from all of you. So jumping right into it, I'm mainly going to be talking about Gen Con because it's the biggest one and it's where we see the most announcements for. And the first thing I wanted to start off with was a few numbers. So last year in 2018, there were 620 new board games that were announced at Gen Con. This year in 2019, there were 635. And the important thing with this is, or 625 and 635, sorry. So the big thing with this is, first off, we are growing, not hugely, but we are growing. And the other major thing is the number of expansions. From those numbers, 110 out of the 625 from last year and 114 of the 635 from this year are expansions. That's less than 20% of all games are expansions. And I love that. I love that developers and publishers are going after new topics, new themes, new IPs, all of that kind of stuff. It's wonderful to see and I'm super excited for it. That said, I'm also a little bit disappointed because all of the games that tend to get the most hype are the ones that are reprints or redos or expansions and things of that nature. So a few that I really wanted to mention specifically were Machikoro and Clank are both getting legacy editions, which I'm a little bit weirded out by. Clank kind of makes sense, but Machikoro seems a little bit weird. Clank is also getting more expansions. A ton of stuff, a ton of old stuff is getting more expansions, all of the popular games, right? So we see Golem Edition of Century getting a couple of expansions. We're seeing Vast, the new version of Vast, which is the Manor, the Mangy Manor or something like that. We're seeing more Pandemic. We're seeing more Ticket to Ride, which is just, at this point, I'm just like, why? Just let it be the way it is. Why can't we let it sit there? A couple of interesting ones that I'm genuinely excited to see are Baron Park is getting an expansion, and of all things, Puerto Rico is getting an expansion. It's essentially expansion 1 and 2 in a single box, and it's something that's just like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I haven't heard much about Puerto Rico in years. It's a great game, but I thought it was pretty good the way it was. So apparently the expansions play very well, and it's a lot of fun with some new buildings and all sorts of other interesting little things like that. The other main thing that I wanted to talk about on this was God of War. There's a God of War game coming, and of course, yeah, I mean, video game to board games, always hit and miss. I'm curious to see how well it goes. The Witcher adventure game ended up being very good. Obviously, we've had some wonderful tabletop RPGs go to board game. So I think that God of War is a good choice for it. I'm just genuinely curious how it's going to go. One of the other interesting things that kind of stood out to me was there is a lot of Power Ranger stuff going on. I don't know what the deal is, but it's like Power Rangers Heroes Unite or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what it is, but there were a ton of titles announced for this, and I was just like, apparently I missed the boat on this or something, because Power Rangers is like super cool for board games again, which is just like, okay, sure, why not? But yeah, there's a lot of like kind of beating the dead horse going on here. The main example of that, or two examples that I wanted to mention, first one is Zombicide. I know, like, Zombicide kind of goes like this, right? It's really good, it's really bad. The initial version, not so great, but then Black Plague, absolutely incredible. And then we've got all of these other different versions, a bunch of weird expansions, and now there's another expansion for it. I'm just like, just leave it alone already, okay? Please. Another one that I'm really weirded out by is another Catan, because we already have, what, 30 edition it feels like, and of course I'm wearing my shirt. But this is Catan Starfarers. So it's kind of interesting because we do see some new mechanics like we had in the Catan Star Trek, I guess is sort of a vague basis for it. So it's interesting in that sense, but again, it's Catan. It's more Catan. It's more of what we've seen. It's more of everything. So, you know, I don't know, whatever. That said, there is one thing that I am truly, genuinely excited by, and that is Dune. Yes! Dune is finally coming back. This is a game that I have wanted essentially ever since I heard about it. I'm super excited for it. I cannot wait for the reprint for the second edition. And basically it's coming out because there's a new movie of Dune coming out. So the author, what is it? Herbert Miller, something like that. I don't remember the guy's name. I apologize. But his estate finally allowed the things to be remade, which means that we're getting a new movie, and by extension we're also going to be getting a new game. Apparently the game is amazing, works really well, and it plays just like the old game. This has been a grail game of mine, so I'm super excited to get a copy of it. I cannot wait. I'm very, very looking forward to it because the spice must flow. That said, I mentioned before, I'm a little bit disappointed because of course with any major convention, all of the major publishers are going to get the most information or the most stuff out there. And again, we're talking about 635 games. That is a lot of games. There's only a handful of publishers though that really get good stuff because you've got really major publishers that take up, you know, like 1/10 of the available space, like Fantasy Flight and things like this. And so some of the smaller publishers that I really like, of course, Genius Games, I've worked with them in the past. They've got Periodic, which is a new science-themed game that they're making. And then we've got Copenhagen, which is coming from, I want to say it's Artana, if memory serves. There's a really fun planting game. It's like a gardening game that's coming out. Wingspan is getting more copies available, finally, which is great to see. One of my favorite games, Evolution, I don't know if you can't really see it, but Evolution Oceans is going to be coming out. It did have a lot of hype. The Kickstarter is over, but I am genuinely excited for that because I really love Oceans. I absolutely, well, I love Evolutions and I adore the artwork style, the watercolors that they have for it. But there's a lot of interesting little games that I'm excited to see, and it's unfortunate because it's harder to track some of those, but I'm still looking forward to them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to any of the conventions, so I wasn't able to actually try any of the games. And of course, all the more reason why you guys need to share your experiences. If you went to these conventions, any news and announcements that you've heard, please let me know all of it in the comments, because especially for this, since I wasn't there, I would love to hear what your guys' experiences were, what you liked, what you didn't like, all of that kind of stuff. I love that we're getting more games. I love that most of them are standalone. The vast majority are standalone. I'm okay with some of the big games still going and expanding. It's a little bit frustrating, especially with like Clank, Zombicide, some of those that we can't seem to stop hearing about. But some of the smaller games getting expansions like Baron Park and Puerto Rico. Machikoro, I'm a little bit more okay with getting some expansions. Those Legacy editions, I'm a little bit meh about. Of course, Dune coming out, super excited to see that. You know, there is a lot of good news to see, and of course, more good news to come at Essen Spiel as well. So I'm really excited for it. But with that, it's more than enough rambling for me. I'm really excited about the upcoming year for board games. I hope that you guys are too. Of course, once again, please let me know anything you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't done so already, please take a look at my social media pages as well as my Patreon as well. On all those, you can interact with myself and my channel and do all sorts of really fun stuff and get some cool stuff as well. But with that, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.